and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Peace and blessings, everyone. This is your pal, Big Cal. And this is the What's Good show. And today is a bit, hyper special for me because I have no other than my brother on the line. And I'm feeling very blessed. I have Mr. David McClary on the line. And we're going to talk about some things, and we're going to put some things right. So, Brother Dave, can you hear me well, bro?
I can hear you, brother. I can hear you, my brother.
All right. I got you turned up. Got you turned up kind of loud. I'm hoping everything goes well.
Okay.
First off, for those who don't know, could you introduce yourself, brother?
My name is Dave. I said David McClary, but everybody call me Dave. I've known Cal, man, since I was a teenager. I'm 60 years old. I'm currently incarcerated. I've been incarcerated for 38 years. Back in 1988, I was convicted of killing a New York City police officer, and I've been in prison ever since. I've been going to the parole board since 2012. I went to 8 parole boards so far, and I've been in prison 13 years, my 25-year minimum. Since I've been in prison, I've educated myself. I'm a teacher, a mentor, a student, and right now I'm working on a non-profit organization to get guns off the streets. So if there's anything else that you would like to know about, can I ask the question?
All right, well, brother, I mean, first and foremost, I must commend you because, as you said, we've known each other forever and a day. We're not going to talk our ages, but the thing is, though, brother, as the young man I knew as children, to the man you are today, I must commend you for taking account for your actions and your involvement and standing tall and giving back as best you can. I commend you for that, brother. As you stated,
thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, as you stated, you've already gone over the minimum, and in that time, you have rebuilt yourself in a manner that I'm somewhat jealous because you've taken accountability for your wrongs or your shortcomings and made better. And again, I commend you for that. Your education, teaching, and giving back.
Yes, that's my mindset now. As you know, when I came to prison, man, I was a functional illiterate, basically, right? I was dealing with a 4th grade reading level. I used to function, but my education suffered greatly. As did my decision making back then because of my lack of education. But I realize now that education is everything, man. And it's important that the young people get an education, man. From when they're young, so they can make proper decisions. For the most part, man, when people are miseducated or uneducated, and they're grown people, but they're working with a 4th grade education, what happens is their decision making is basically from a 4th grader. Their understanding of the things they live on a daily basis is very limited. So they can't see the many depths of the situations that may come in front of them on a daily basis. So they make bad decisions. And that's exactly what happened to me. I made bad decisions based on a lack of education. I didn't really understand how to process my life and what was in front of me from day to day. Like I said, I was able to function, but I wasn't able to really, accept life the way that it needed to be accepted at that time. But I'm certainly there now, and I'm making a point to try to make sure that young people, and particularly young people who come in prison, I try to make it a point that they don't have to go through what I went through. I always tell them that my hindsight should be their foresight. In other words, I tell them, man, I can see your future. I can see your future because the only thing I would have to do is look into my past, and I can read your future. You can't do that because you don't have the past that I have. You don't have a past yet. But you can use my path to straighten out or to make a clear path to your future. I think that's important that they understand that. One of the things that I try to bang into them, right, is that a lot of times we're cut off from our history. So a lot of times as youth, we don't talk to our mothers, our grandmothers. I'm talking about to get their true history about the things they went through to get us to the point to a teenager, right, or young adulthood. We never really sat down and had conversations with them, So I try to make sure that I do that now with the young brothers, because like I said, I can predict your future simply by looking at my past. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you are 1,000% correct with that. In your hindsight, if you seeing as you said your past, if you were to meet young Dave now, what kind of words of wisdom would you give him? Because a lot of these kids, are thinking they're the coolest thing. They're reinventing the wheel, and you have the insight and foresight, or through experience, for that what moves they don't need to make or think about.
Absolutely. One of the things I will certainly tell them, right, is to get an education. Education is key, right? Let me tell you where I went wrong at with that situation. It's funny because somebody asked me the other day if I was to pick one moment in my lifetime, right, where I would alter my life, right? If I could pick one moment in my life, at what point will I pinpoint to change what I did, to change the trajectory of my life? I think that's a very good question. After thinking about it for a while, right, it would be in the 7th grade, I got skipped from 7th grade to 9th grade to go play basketball. Even when I knew that my education wasn't right. They kept socially promoting me, right? And then when I got skipped from 7th grade to 9th grade, that was to play basketball for Springfield High School, right? Because I could play basketball. So I thought that made it all right for me. That gave me a permission structure that I could go through life without education. That's what made me think that, because I was functioning and doing whatever I was doing. And even when I dropped out of school at 11th grade, because they kept socially promoting me, because I wasn't getting promoted based on my education. I was getting promoted based on the fact that I was playing basketball, right? So when I hurt my ankle in 11th grade, I had to drop out, right? Because that was the only reason why I was going to school. When I dropped out and I hit the street and I started selling drugs, right? I was still doing all right, being a functioning I was selling drugs. I was making money. I was able to buy a car and live and do everything that I needed to do. Again, that reinforced what I thought previously, that I didn't need an education because I'm surviving without one. You understand what I'm saying? But that was a forced interpretation of what life is. And because of that forced interpretation, I made bad decisions. So once I made those bad decisions and I came to prison and I really started to educate myself, it gave me a whole new perspective on life. Right? It made me see things in the proper perspective that I couldn't see before. You know, when you're able to look at things and assess them like an intelligent adult, you will see just how flawed your thinking was because of your lack of education. And I believe that it was at that moment that made me realize where I went wrong. So I say that to the younger brothers too, right? When you out there, I know you may be thinking that everything is good because you out there selling drugs or you out there doing whatever it is you have to do to get money, right? But believe me when I tell you, right? That always ends in one or two ways. You either end up in prison or you end up in the grave. There's very few people that you know that made it through all of that and is still out there to live a life. Very few. You
never lie with that one. So
yes.
So in your accomplishment, I mean, you in your situation, there is hard, you know, us being out here free, running around free. You know, we sit there and we smile about all, you know, corny stuff. You've made major moves, starting different programs and such. You know, can you name, you know, give us some insight into some of your accomplishments, because you've done some great deeds, bro.
All right. Well, one of the things that I found that when I did educate myself, right, one of the things that I found that I'm pretty good at is designing programs, right, to get the attention of younger people, right? And that's important in prison because in prison you have so many different things that you can get into, right? That could waste your time. And you can waste your time with it until it's time for you to get out of here. You know, you can do that. You can do that very easily in here because there's so many other things you can get into, right? My thing was to basically capture the attention of the young people, and instead of them being in the yard, have them in a classroom, right, where they can actually learn some things before they leave here that's going to be able to keep them on the right path when they leave, right? So I've developed many programs through the years, right? I've developed a program for young gang members. It was called Young Black Development Academy, Young Black Men Development Academy, right? And that program was designed to basically show them what they thought was reality to what is reality, right? Because, you know, we have these perceptions about street codes and things of that nature, right? And how we're supposed to live, right? And we're thinking that that's cool or that's the way that we're supposed to live, right? But I show them a different way to that. You know, that's not reality. That's not reality. It's what they want you to think is reality because they need you to act in the manner that you're acting. You know, so I try to keep them away from that by basically putting them in front of a mirror and putting them in front of two mirrors actually, and showing them what they thought is real to what is actually real. You know, that was the situation with me when I realized what was real and what wasn't real. When I started to educate myself, I was amazed. I really was amazed. So that's one program I put together. One of the programs they absolutely love It's called the Anti-Crime Economic Workshop that I put together. And it's basically designed to teach them about finances, credit, business. So, and I have to explain to them that I guarantee that if you leave here with this information, you will never have to commit another crime. Because basically we commit crime for economic reasons, for the most part. 90% of our crime has an economic component to it, right? We feel that that's the easiest way to get money, that's the fastest way to get money, right? So that's what we do, right? But there's a better way to do that, you know? All we have to do is just learn what we need to learn about business, about finances. So what I teach them how to make money, I teach them how to leverage their money, I teach them how to invest their money, and I teach them all about credit and things of that nature and show them that, listen, man, you can get what you want. You can still get what you want. All the fancy stuff you want, you can still get it, but you can get it legally. You can get it legally. It may take you a little touch longer to get it, but you'll enjoy it more because you won't be looking over your shoulder for the police to come get you. You won't be looking over your shoulder for somebody to come kill you because they got beat because you're fighting over a corner or this or that. It'll all be yours. It'll all be legitimate. You'll be able to live your life without having to worry about, those outside forces that's normally present in your life when you're in the street. I also teach, yes?
No, I was just saying, because you made a statement when we had talked prior that, it's like engraved in my mind. You said we have to utilize more critical thinking instead of criminal thinking.
Criminal thinking, and I was going to get to that because that's part of my mentor program. That's part of my mentorship. That's part of my program. You are absolutely right. And I was going to get to that also, right? That was a part of, in all my classes, I teach that component because that would apply to everything that we do in life. Critical thinking as opposed to criminal thinking, because that's what we do. We come up thinking criminal because that's what we're taught to do, right? Instead of thinking critically, right? If we think critically, then we'll see where we went wrong, But don't we have to be taught to do that? Because most of the time we don't do that. And one of the reasons why it's necessary is because the things that we're taught about the streets, the codes, the big codes and stuff like that that's given to us about the streets and how we're supposed to live and what is manhood and things of that nature, right? All of that is along criminal thinking. All of that is along the line of criminal thinking, right? But when we think critically, we can take those same situations and turn them into better situations for ourselves. And that's what they get mixed up. Every time when we're faced with a decision and we're brought up the way that we're brought up, every time we're faced with a decision, we usually make the wrong one because our criminal thinking tell us that that's the right way to go, based on what we've already learned criminally, right? But that's not the right way to go. So we need to be able to distinguish the critical thinking from the criminal thinking. Like I always, when I first tell these young guys that, right, they always tell me, well, what you mean by that? What you mean by that? And I tell them, I say, okay, listen, when you think about something critically, right, it's mathematics, really, man, A plus B equals C. That's how we have to look at it. If I do this, how is this going to affect everything I have going, not just me, but everybody around me? How is that going to affect me, right? And I always use as an example, I always use the fact that I sold drugs when I was in the street, right? Now, because of my limited education, I couldn't see the destruction that it caused. I'm talking about the complete construction. I couldn't see the whole picture, because part of my vision was blind, right? Because the lack of my education wouldn't allow me to see past a certain point. So, you may look at a person, and a person may use drugs, and then you may see this person maybe a month or two later, and the person was different because the drug is affecting that person, right? And that's what you see, and then you say, okay, well, this is life in the hood. You might look at them and say, okay, another one fit the bill. This is life in the hood, right? But then when I came to prison, and I really started to educate myself, right? You start to see all the other ways that drug affected not just that person, but the entire community. How it affects the property value in the community, how it affects businesses in the community, right? How it affects the responses to the police responses in the community, right? How it affects the mothers and the fathers who have to worry about their children in the community, right? How it affects the politicians and how they use the community to get money, but spend the money on themselves, but they use the money because of crime. They keep saying crime this, crime that, crime this, but they never do nothing to straighten out or address the crime. They get the money for it, but they misuse the money. They never do nothing for the community. So getting that education allowed me to look at that situation and think critically about it, right? Where I couldn't do that before. Like you might ask some of them guys that's out there in the streets now certain things about that community that they can't answer. They can't answer because they haven't been taught to think critically. They've been taught to think criminally. You might say, you might tell them to look at a particular area. What do you see? And the first thing that goes in their mind is how they can exploit that area to get some type of money. How they can rob a store in the community. How they can sell drugs in the community. Where they can sell drugs at. Who they can get the drugs to sell the drugs. All of that type of thing. So critical thinking is extremely important when you talk about trying to straighten out the lives of the young people that's in our community. You have to change their whole way of thinking. And the first thing you have to do, the thing that's very necessary into doing that is you have to be who you say you are. Because they're always watching you. They're always watching you. So whenever I get into a situation, they're going to look at me to see how I resolve that situation, right? And if I don't do it in the manner that I'm trying to explain to them to do it, they're going to call me a fraud, so they're not going to listen to me. So you have to be a mentor. You have to be who you say you are. That's the first test, because they're going to watch you. They're going to watch you. So then once, yes?
No. I sorry to interrupt you, because you made a very key point. Be who you be, the man or woman that you profess to be, and the man that you are now, your impact is greatly needed, because as I see the youth of today, they're following the smoke and mirrors of what they hear on the radio or what they see on TV, and they don't realize the self-destruction that is leads to for our young men and women in society.
Right. And in order for them to see that, they're going to have to be able to think critically. Like, they're going to have to ask themselves, right? The things that I do on a daily basis, not only how does it affect me, but how do it affect the people that I'm around? How do it affect my family? How do it affect the community? Right? And if you're taught that things like that, right, a lot of mistakes that you make, or a lot of the things that you do that affect the community negatively, right, you'll be able to clean a lot of that up. You'll be able to clean it up. But the only thing you have to do is be able to think, and be able to think critically about it, and not criminal, because a criminal thinker would say, I don't care about that. Yeah. I'm only worried about how that's going to affect me.
Exactly.
I don't care about the results of what I'm into. As long as it don't affect me, I'm good. Or as long as it affects me in a positive way, right, or a way that I can benefit from it, I'm good. They don't care about nothing else. They're not thinking about anything else. So it's important to make these young kids understand that, right? You're not an island. You're not an island, meaning that you're not someone who can survive on their own. You're not. You know, we don't survive. We don't survive as simply a star. We don't survive as a star. We survive as a galaxy, right? And when we, as a galaxy, that means that each one of us is doing our part. No, each one of us is doing our part to get the things that we need to get done, and for the community to be a better place. You know, so yeah, that critical thinking is big for me. So you know, it's big for me. So I'm on that.
So, God willing, that, you know, these people, they come in their right state of mind and give you an opportunity to get out here and incorporate your experience and knowledge and compassion with these kids to get them back on the right path. Like,
oh, absolutely. Well, I'm go ahead.
No, I was saying, given the opportunity, what is like some of the first things you would like to do with the community and with your people?
Well, see, here's the thing about that, right? I'm already doing it. I'm not waiting. I'm not just waiting until I get out.
You have 1 minute left.
Like hey, Diane. I don't know if she can hear me or not.
They say you got 1 minute left.
So you want to hang up and call back? Yeah, we'll call you back.
All right.
Hold on, Cal.
Yes,
the
ma'am.
caller has hung up.
Well, y'all, this is a blessed talk with my brother David McClary, and as they dangle these prison sentences in front of us, and we've all made mistakes in our life, but given the opportunity to correct those mistakes, we should also be given opportunity to show people that you can do it. Don't just throw someone away and think it can't get better. Give him an opportunity to let us know it can and should be and would be better. So, but that's, you know, that's just me thinking. But again, I'm not saying I'm wrong, or I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm saying give the brother a chance. We need to bring Dave home, because you can't complain about something if you're doing nothing to correct it. Well, as we wait for our communication to be reconnected, this young brother, you know, given the opportunity to repay his debt to society, which he's already done in numerous forms, we can no longer sit down and personally judge someone and give them some kind of penance to repay and just keep holding it over their head. Because at that point, we're doing ourselves a disservice. Because we're still holding on to negative energy that could right or wrong or make things better. But due to our own personal feelings and issues, we don't allow ourselves to heal. And I'm not saying that, you know, it's an easy statement for the Byrne family, for the McClary family, but we have to begin somewhere. And in beginning that and doing that, the healing process, no matter how long, can begin. And until we open to allowing ourselves to heal, that wound will only fester and get deeper.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I was saying before we got cut off, you asked me, you know, what it is that I intend to do when I get out there and get to you. But
yes.
After I'm doing that now, I'm working with various organizations, man, youth organizations that we're helping them implement programs and things like that for the youth. But when I get out here, one of the major things that I'm going to do to work with them, right? One, I'm definitely going to establish a financial literacy program. That's for sure. That's something that they need, right? But one of the other things that I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to get them involved politically with the community. That's what they need to learn. Okay. They need to learn the politics of their community. They need to learn the politics of their community because when they don't learn that, right, which is most people in our neighborhoods, we don't know about that stuff. When they don't learn that, it allows them to be used by politicians to get money and everything else that they never benefit from, you know? So I'm gonna make sure that they're gonna be connected as to how that politics works in their community. That's something that's extremely important. We just don't know how important that is, but it's extremely important. And they need to know about the community and how it works, how the community works, how they get money from the community, and where all of that money should go. They need to know all of that, right? And not only that, they need to be able to put people who are growing up with them into politics. They need representatives of people who are going to speak for them, you know? So yeah, I am definitely, that's one of my goals for sure with them, is to make sure they understand what politics is and how it works and how it benefits them and how it hurts them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's an amazing perspective right there, because too often times these cats, you know, men and women, they're taught, you know, if you can't sing, dance, do a jig, dribble a ball, you know, you need to hit the block. But as you're showing, as you're telling, if these guys are financially literate, men and women financially literate, to learn, you don't have to hit the block. You can, again, as you say, the education is key. Get out here.
That's right.
You know, share that wisdom and knowledge, and build up your own community. Don't tear it down. Right. Build it up.
If you can't play on the team, then own it.
There you go.
Then own it.
100% right there. So,
that's right. Then own it. And it's, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying, so in your time, you know, like your accomplishments with your education and your different programs, teaching, it's like as you're teaching these different functioning different things for brothers to be on the outside. What are other programs that you've got going on inside? Because again, they want to keep this the wheel of the criminal justice system turning in and out.
Right.
What do you what are you programs are you speaking with brothers in there looking forward to getting a chance to come out?
Well, right now, my number one program dealing with that is that economic program. That's my number one, because that's the thing that I know is going to be the foundation for them staying out when they get out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's the foundation of them staying out when they get out. But there's other programs that I have in here too. Right? One of the things I like to do, I like to teach them life skills. Right? I love to teach them life skills because they're going to need that when they leave here. Right? Right now, I'm in the process of developing a program for men. You know, because a lot of times we're not men. We only think we are, right? But we don't do the things that men do, and we're not taught to act like men, right? So we'll be stuck. We're stuck in this extended state of adolescence, right? And it's time to get out of that. So right now I'm putting together a class specifically, right, to build men, right? And that's important, because in order to be a man, right, you're going to have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to be able to take care of your family, but you also going to have to change your mindset about what a man is, you know, and what makes up a man, right? What a man is and how a man acts, right? Because a lot of times we don't act like men. We say we're men, and biologically we're men, but mentally and emotionally we far away from being men, you know? So my thing before they leave here, right, is to turn these brothers into men and to teach them how to fend for themselves, man. Turn these brothers into men and to teach them how to fend for themselves. those are the two major things that I try to instill in these brothers, man, whenever I get a hold of them. You know, because those are the things that's important. You know, those are the things that's important. Because a lot of times we'll come in here, right? And we won't really learn nothing. We'll stay watching TV. We'll stay watching TV. We'll stay going to the yard, but we won't really learn nothing. Something that's we're gonna internalize. That's gonna be beneficial to us, like, you know, beyond these prison walls. So that's one thing I try to make sure I do, man. I need to give these brothers something that they're gonna be able to really use when they leave here. And that starts with becoming a man, man. That starts with becoming a man and staying a man when you leave here. You know? I mean, a lot of them, man, want to fit in. So you have a lot of brothers that come in here and they want to fit in, right? And these guys are young, man. A lot of these guys are really young. They come in here and they want to fit in. And so they jump right into the gang culture. They jump right into the clique culture. And they get stuck there. My thing is, I try to bring all of them to the classes. You know? So all those young men, man, that have sway over the rest of them, all of them who's supposed to be the leaders of them, I get them first. And that's how I get the rest of them. You know? Yeah. So that's one of the things.
No, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, can you implement to them that they need to unlearn all the garbage that they thought they were learning when they were on the street?
That's exactly what I was saying to you earlier when I told you I put two mirrors up to them and I showed them what they thought was reality or what they was taught was reality, and then I showed them the reality side. So yeah, it's a lot of that is unlearning, as you put it. A lot of that is unlearning all of the things that they've learned, all of the negative things that they learned, right? And then re-educating them, you know, so they can understand the difference between the two, man. You know, and how real education miseducation can never take the place of real education, right? And I show them the difference. You know, I mean, one of the books that I always I pull from when I'm doing this is Carter G. Woodson's book, the guy who started Black History Month. I usually use his book. He wrote a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. Okay. And I usually use that book to show them, you know, there's a big difference between being uneducated or miseducated than being educated, right? And I lay it before them. And then once I lay it before them, and then I show them the differences, right? There's not much they can argue about. You know, I mean, of course they say a lot of times, well, you know, that was never presented to me like that. Nobody never really told me that, you know? So I said, yeah, well, that's what we're here for. We're here to show you a better way. We're here to show you the true way, the real way of how it should have been done.
Well, let me ask you this, though, brother. Do they still, I remember they used to have the Scared Straight program and things like that. Do they have anything like that in your facility?
They still have it. They call it YAP now, right? They call it YAP, the youth assistant program. That's what they call it now, right? But I never participated in that program on the facility level because they never really was bringing in the kids that affected us. When I was in Chihuahua, you know who Erica Ford is, right?
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't know if you know this, right? But when I helped her build that organization when she first started it.
Right? Oh, I didn't know that.
She used to come up and I had a team. That's Diane. Diane, let me tell you, I had a team of brothers who was a part of my executive board for the organization I was running with, and we used to act as her advisors. You know, so when she was getting that off the ground, she used to come to consult us. You know, so we used to write programs and stuff like that for us. I'm talking about when it started. When it first started back in 2001. Yeah.
Whoa.
So I helped build that. Matter of fact, some of the brothers that work on that with her right now was with me when I was helping her there. That's how she knows it. Some of the people that work in her organization. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I helped her put that together, and so we I helped her through the years. That's how my brother Lacey. That's how Lacey got herself with her.
I was about to say, isn't he working with her?
Yeah, that's how he got himself with her. Working in that program.
All right.
So, but she's not the only one. That's why I said to you, I said that, you know, I'm not waiting until I leave here. You know, she's not the only program that I work with out there. The only youth program that I work with out there. I work with a number of them. You know, but that's what I do.
Okay.
You know, that's what I do.
Well, on that note, though, bro, what can we do? What can we do? You know, my listeners, and this is, I want to let you know. I want to do this as a series because I want to really be part of a movement to try and get your feet back on solid ground.
Okay.
You know, this is just interview. This is just interview one. There's going to be I want to do a few more.
Right.
And
okay. I mean, listen, I'm available for you whenever you need me, brother.
All right, because I know you have a busy modeling career.
Yeah, I'm definitely busy, man. Ain't no modeling career. That's a joke.
Yeah. So, come on, man. I was blessed. I saw some of the videos. You're still looking sharp. You're still looking sharp, and your mind is right. That's a blessing right there, brother.
Oh yeah, listen, believe me, and I thank God every day, man, for the fact that I haven't lost my mind. Yeah, I really do, man. You know, because there's plenty of people who have, man. You know, I'm just glad to count myself not one of them. You know.
So very true, my brother.
I'm very happy about that.
So what can we do? What can we do to keep this movement, get this movement stronger, and such? What are some of the things we can do?
Okay, well, one is very important is the letter campaign, right? As you know, I have a letter online. Have you gotten to it yet? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
All right. Well, I have a letter online that they can just go to, and they can. The letter is already written. Only thing they have to do is just put their name on it, you know, because it's going to go to the parole board. I have a goal of trying to get 10,000 letters before I go back. You know, so that would be nice, man, if you can get all the people, man, to go there and put their name on the letter, right? That's going to go to the parole board. They can also go to my Instagram, right? They go right to Instagram and bring Dave home. Bring Dave home is, you know, they punch in Bring Dave home and go right to my Instagram site. They can post comments and stuff like that. They can look at the videos there, read the comments, follow us, share my situation. You know, all of those things, man. You know, I mean, you better with the online thing because you've been doing it for so long, so you know how to get it spread and stuff like that. That would help me tremendously. You know, yeah. So you know, that's what I'm looking for, man. I'm looking for that help, man. And on the 16th, no, on the 18th of this month, we have a meeting that's going to go on in the hood. It's in our hood, Cal. So you know where that's at. So just in case you might have any listeners, man, that's over there by our way. They can attend there. You know, they're gonna have a little food there, and they're gonna have a planning session and stuff like that about what it is that they're gonna continue to do to bring me home. So yeah, they can attend that. So you might want to speak to Diane about that. She's the one that's securing the location and stuff like that. But it's right in the hood.
Okay.
It's like, I think it's right there on Sufton and Linden, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
whichever,
yeah,
but
there's also a Zoom for people, a Zoom link that's connected that for people that's out of town, or if they just can't make it, they could do it that way.
okay. So Instagram, bring Dave home. Sign the letter. Sign the letter to get to.
Yeah, the letter. Yeah, the letter is www.bringdavehome.com. That's where you find the letter.
All right. www.bringdavehome.com.
Right. .com. Yeah, that's where you find it. You can find the letter, yeah, but you know how to get to the Instagram. Instagram, all you guys think you gotta do is go to Instagram and punch in Bring Dave Home. You'll see the videos, you read the comments, and I want you to post some comments, get the people to follow us, and share the videos and share the situation. Like I said, you've been out there long enough. You know how to spread the word on social media. You know better than I do.
Yeah, without question. But brother, I mean, it's the least I can do. I gotta get my brother home.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the assistance, man. Believe me, I appreciate the assistance, man. But I wanted to say to make clear to your listeners, right? I did something that was wrong. I took a life, right? I did something that was wrong. I took a life, right? I did the time for that. I did 25 years. I had 25 years left. I did 25 years. But now they hit me 8 times. I'm 13 years past that 25, right? And the law says that I'm supposed to be home. That's what the law says, right? But make no mistake about how I feel about this. I mean, I'm contrite about the life that I took. So I want to make that plain. Taking the life is wrong. So I want to make that plain to the youngsters, man, so they'll understand that, I did what I did, and I did the time for it. There's a punishment component to this, right? There's also a component for rehabilitation, and I've done that. I've rehabilitated myself, So I want them to understand that I did something wrong, and I did the time for doing that wrong, So I need them to understand that before we go.
Well, as we stated before, brother, we need to show and prove that rehabilitation is real. It's not a myth. It can happen. Give it a chance to be proven.
It'll be proven. That's right. This is your rule. We're rolling with your rule. We're saying, okay, if a person do something wrong, there's a punishment component, but there's also a rehabilitation component. And like you said, if this is your rule, then follow it. If a person is rehabilitated, as I am, then you're supposed to let me go. I wasn't sentenced to death by incarceration. That wasn't my sentence. My sentence was 25 years to life, which the legislators, the people who made that law, which the judge said, man, the legislators wanted second degree murder to be punishable by death or life without parole. That's what it would have done. It didn't do that. It put 25 years of life as the correct punishment for that act. I've done that.
I mean, you can't say no plainer. You've done the time.
Right.
You did the crime. You did the time.
I did the time.
So stop. They need to stop padding their own egos and emotions, and let justice be done.
Let justice be done. Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't say no plainer than that. Yeah, but I just wanted the people to know. I just wanted the youngsters to know, that, I'm not bragging about this. This is not something that I'm proud of. They need to know it was wrong. And I'll accept the punishment.
Well, let me ask you this, so brother. If it's not, if you could, is there anything you would say to the Byrne family, that your remorse or such?
Well, I do that every time I go to parole board. I tell them how sorry I am for taking their family members' life from them, man. How remorseful I am. I'm remorseful for that. That was a point in my life, man, that completely changed my life. Not only changed my life, it changed the life of all the people that's in my life, that mean something to me and who I mean something to, and it changed their life as well. So it changed two family lives, So yeah, I'm very remorseful about that, and I say that all the time. But other than what I do, right? Because I did wrong, and I work every day, man, and try to correct what it is that I did, right? You can't correct it, but I try to at least redeem myself or make up for it, So, yeah, I may have taken a life, right? But I can guarantee you, right, that I've saved a lot more since I've been in here.
I would say that same thing. I would say that exact. And I say that from a personal perspective, because having spoken with you, the man that you've become compared to the kid that you were, I felt better in talking with you, our conversation. You lifted weight off of my shoulders, to hold my head up higher, to conduct and carry myself in the light that you showed me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I strive to do that. I strive to do that every day, man. I strive to be a better person every day, and it's because of the crime that I committed that have a lot to do with it, so that changed my life. That crime changed my life, but there is no other way, right, to express it than how I've been expressing it. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
like you just said,
I agree completely.
Right. It's like you just said, is there anything that you have to say? I can't say anything other than what I've been saying, right? Because no matter what they say, right, there's really no way for them to gauge how remorseful I am. I'm expressing to you how remorseful I am. If you look at the things that I've done since I've been in here, right, and I'm not just talking about for me, I'm talking about for others. If you look at things I've done, I think you would get a pretty good picture of my rehabilitation. I think you would get a pretty good picture of that without me even saying anything about it. So yeah.
I mean, you said it perfectly. The issue that you've been incarcerated for is one thing, but in that incarceration, look how many lives you've assisted and changed for the better.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And that's not a game for me. That's who I am today, and that's who I am because of the crime that I'm in prison for. Like I said, it changed my life. Changed my life.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know how much more I can say that. I don't know how I can say that any differently.
Well, there's not much more to say, brother. The thing is, we have to do the best we can to get our brother home, because
right.
It's one thing to talk about the crime, talk about the issue, talk about the problems. But the bottom line is, what are we doing about those problems? What are we doing to get things back in order? Because anybody can sit there and talk about it. Only a real man or woman can get up and do something about it. And that is what we need to do. We got to bring Dave home. So he can do something about it.
Absolutely. That's right. And I have many ideas about that. Oh.
So as we got to get ready to wrap this one up, brother. But
Okay.
we got to put this together because we're gonna do a part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, however many we need to do.
Okay, I'm with it.
So we can get you till I can see. We can compare. We can count gray hairs.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you can mess with me on that score, man.
Brother Dave, you have no
I don't
idea.
think you can mess with me on that score, man.
Man,
Trust me, bro.
they got my chin. They got my chin looking like Papa Smurf, bro.
Listen, mine is pretty much the same too, man. Mine is pretty much the same too.
And my hairline, I'm not trying to be Stephen A. Smith, so I just went with the baldy. You won't be talking about me like LeBron. No.
Yo, yeah, you right about that. You definitely don't want to be Stephen A. Smith. You ain't lying about that.
That brother hairline's by his ear, behind his ears.
You still be creaming, right? Is it creaming too? Yeah. Can I buy one? No. Why? What you do with creaming? Yeah, man. Yeah, you don't want that to be you, man. No.
Ah.
Yeah. But listen, man, I appreciate you doing what you're doing for me, brother. Yeah, that should help me a lot, man. You know? Yeah, man, we gotta motivate your people to really get involved, man. You know?
Yes, sir.
The letter campaign is very important. You know, like I said, my goal is to reach 10,000, man. You know, that's what they're doing to me.
You have 1 minute left.
That's what they're doing to me. You know. So
all right, my brother. We're gonna continue. We're gonna continue this movement.
All right, let me know when you need me again, and I'll be there, man. All right.
I'm there for you, brother. Whenever you need me.
No doubt, man.
All right. Stay blessed. Stay blessed.
You too, man. You too.
Talk to you soon. Love you, Dave.
All right, love you too, man.
And